Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand spanking new episode of MovieKombat. This is MovieKombat Season 8. And this season, we are going to be talking about the Disney princesses. And we're going to go in order of how the Disney princesses have all been released in their theatrical releases. So we're going to go in order, starting with Snow White, as you can see by the title of the episode if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching live on twitch.tv/Primal_Target, you guys got to actually participate. As you can see, Preacher is here, as well as some others. You guys will get to participate in actually giving it the Primal Target, the PT Nation review. For some reason, I rolled right over what I was trying to say, and my brain was knowing what I needed to say. It didn't. Anyway, the people that are watching live on twitch.tv/Primal_Target get to actually review it and give it an official PT Nation review. There we go. That's what it is. And then I will give it an actual review as well. So that's how that works. So the Primal Target will seal of review. What is that? Primal Target will give it a review. The PT Nation will give it a review. There will be 2 different reviews by the end of this whole thing. That's how MovieKombat works. And then we compete them all against each other as we go throughout the season of all 13 princesses of the Disney Corporation. Okay, these are the official ones. And starting with Snow White, then Cinderella is next. Sleeping Beauty is the one that follows. Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Pocahontas, Mulan, The Princess and the Frog, Tangled, Brave, Moana, and Raya, and The Last Dragon are the official Disney princess movies. You can look them up. Those are the princesses. So Frozen is not on this, as you can clearly see. And Moana 2 is not on here because that's a sequel. So we're not doing sequels. We're just doing the first of all these franchises. Okay. So that is the beginning to that. And like I said, we're live on twitch.tv/Primal_Target. And so let's get into the whole rigmarole. The things that I kind of kept track of as we moved through the movie is because every season I like to keep track of something that's completely random, so I wanted to do that again. And so I chose 4 things that I was going to keep track of as we went through this. So when we see the princesses, when we see the princess, that gets a timestamp. How many songs there are. So not how many times they're sung. Once the song is sung, that counts as 1. So it's not. So anytime Snow White sings "I'm Wishing" does not count as another song. It already got sang. So that's 1 song. The first song timestamp, and also when we see the villain. And I'm also going to say when song is classified by when someone is singing as a character. So if a princess starts singing, that is considered the first song. Or if the villain sang first, that would be the first song. So it doesn't have to be sang by the princess herself. It could be sang by anybody as long as it is on screen the person is singing. It can't be just some background thing. Because I know as soon as we start getting into some of these, they are opened up by actual orchestra and by a background vocals will start playing in, but they're not actual characters. So the character must sing the song. That's what classifies as a song and as a first song. So those are the rules. So let's start with when we see the princess. We see Snow White, the official title character of the entire movie, at 3 minutes and 31 seconds. That is when, as soon as it fades, that's when I clocked it in. So 3 minutes and 31 seconds. How many songs were there? I counted 9. I have not looked them up, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So that's part of what me keeping track of them is. So I counted 9. So if you see more, then that's where it is. There was a few that were debatable, but they didn't go into more than maybe 2 or 3 songs or 2 or 3 lines. It might have been 10, because now I'm thinking about it. I think I counted the "Washing Your Hands" song. it's 9 or 10. I'm trying to think of if I went back on it because I may have thought it wasn't, but then they actually did go into a song. So, yeah, I think that would be 10. The first song though, I said 3 minutes and 32 seconds because Snow White starts humming, which then leads into her song of I'm Wishing, which you could consider her actual singing starts when she's actually at the wishing well, but I don't know. The song kind of starts back when she's at the steps when we first are introduced to her. So you could take that with a grain of salt, but I'd say 3 minutes 32 seconds. And then in this movie, which I don't know if will happen very often, but the evil queen, our villain, actually was shown first before the Disney princess Snow White. So the evil queen actually shows up at 2 minutes and 23 seconds is when I registered that. So kind of interesting. I don't know if we'll see that again. Yeah. So let's get into talking about this movie. Snow White, going into this, I always looked at this movie as a little bit of a hard watch of just how the pacing of it is. It's 1937. It's an hour and 23 minutes. It's just not as where the other princess movies are in my head. This is before going in. I always considered this movie very, very slow. But now watching this as an adult, I still think the pacing is a little bit slower. But it's pretty fun, and the story structure is actually a lot smarter than I thought it was. It wasn't just like, I mean, it's pretty generic of this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. We'll put stuff in between to make all of that happen. That's it. And that's fine, because at the end of the day, it's a kids movie. It's a children's movie. It doesn't need to have this heavy social plot that has to be involved into a children's movie. It's an animated movie that as an adult you can go and watch and actually enjoy watching it with a kid or whatever, or as a a big kid, So and I think Snow White does a pretty good job doing that. It's just you either really like it or it sits kind of in the middle of like, it's okay. Now, I didn't notice before, for some reason, just never thought about why, like one of the things, I just never considered it. Why did Snow White clean the seven dwarves' house? Why would this random woman wander into a house, she sees it's all broken and decrepit, and she decides, you know what, I'm going to clean this house. It's because, and also willing to, and also knows how to. Not that cleaning a house isn't necessarily a hard thinking of a job. It's just more of you got to do it. She's a maid at the castle. They say it. They say it in the very beginning. The magic mirror says it. I never caught that before. And I'm like, oh, that's the reason why she's willing to do this. And she asks the animals, like, oh, they don't have a mother? And the animals go, no. And she goes, oh, well, then I'll do this for them. Because first off, she's really nice. Second off, she knows what to do to clean everything and how to get, like, she knows the laundry needs to get done. She knows that cooking needs to get done. She knows the dishes need to get done. She knows all the things that need to get done in order to clean the actual house. And I never thought, that she's a maid, because the magic mirror says she's a maid, because the evil queen says, like, who is it? And, then he goes on and it describes her. So, I don't know. That was kind of some interesting thing that was just kind of like, boink. It was right in the middle. It was right in the beginning of that movie. And they just threw that information in there to explain who that character was. And I thought it was really cool. I thought it was genius. Because as a adult, you're going to watch it and you're going to go, why is this woman doing this? Other than the fact that she ran away. It gives you the explanation of who this character is in literally just the very first 5 minutes before you even see her. So that was kind of cool that they did that. And then uh, also I never really thought about the like story structure of it is mainly Snow White hanging out with the seven dwarves, which is the title of it. It's Snow White and the seven dwarves. It's not anything else. There is no evil queen that needs to be talked about. You know she's evil. You saw her. She's trying to kill her. She hired the huntsman. Like, everything that happens that is to initiate why Snow White is seeing the seven dwarves all happens within, I think, the first 10 minutes of the movie, give or take. It's like the evil queen hears that Snow White is the fairest of them all, fairest one of them all, and then she sees that the prince likes her, and so that was like more evidence that she is the fairest, because now people are starting to actually approach Snow White, and you see that she knows magic. That's it. Boom, that character is developed. You know why the evil queen is evil. Then she hires the huntsman to go and kill Snow. Snow runs away because the huntsman says, go run away. I was supposed to kill you. Run. Then you have this whole like sequence of Snow White trying to, which I thought was genius too, is she's just running through the woods. But we're seeing what she's seeing. She's seeing like, oh, the trees are like hands grabbing at her. They're not really. It's just branches. But she's so freaked out, she doesn't know. It's not magic. The forest isn't enchanted. There's never a moment that it explains that it is. There's never anything that says it is. It's not enchanted. She's so scared. We're seeing her visions of what's happening. And because the reason why that's true and that's what we're seeing is at the very end when she's laying there in the middle of the like in this grassy area, all the animals show up and they start turning in all the eyes start to like come back into what they like, those little cute animals of like raccoons and deer and all that stuff. So it was, I don't know, I thought it was really cool that as watching that now, there are things that the movie does to yeah, it was just good. It was just really good. But then yeah, the whole middle, which is essentially like 50 minutes of the movie, is Snow White interacting with the seven dwarves mixed in with the evil queen in there every so often. So yeah, it's just kind of like, and then after that is the ending. Evil queen turns into a witch. She shows up, gives the apple. The apple is there. I also forgot for some reason that the evil queen dies. I totally forgot about that, and not in a very like clean way. She fully gets slammed with a big giant boulder. Like, we don't see that on screen because obviously Disney wasn't going to do that. But I totally didn't know that was what was going to happen. Like, I forgot that happened. So, yeah, it was, I don't know. I thought that was kind of like, oh, totally forgot she died. But anyway, oh, you actually did watch this with your daughter. That's pretty cool. So I'm curious to ask. I'll ask that about that here in just a moment, there, preacher. But so yeah, I think I grew a little bit more of a fondness for Snow White. Obviously, Snow White is where Disney. I think what I would say is this is the moment when Walt Disney was able to take his animation, and people started realizing like, oh, they're doing something really special there at Walt Disney Studios. Like, yeah, they make the cartoons that they play before movies and whatnot that are, and we know what Walt Disney is. We know who Mickey Mouse is. But when you see a 90-minute animated movie for the very first time in color, it's something that was unheard of. So this was a totally different experience for moviegoers. And again, 1937. This is before the 40s that this movie came out. They didn't even have Oscars for animation yet. That should just right there. There was nothing you could win that was a prestigious award for animation yet. It just didn't exist. Nobody was doing movies in full animation for 90 minutes. It was just unheard of before my grandparents were born. I don't know if they were before my grandparents were born. I've not thought about that. But yeah, so there's that. But yeah, it's pretty crazy of just um how advanced that Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Because when you go back and you watch it now, it is a little harder to watch with the now upscaling and upscaling and upscaling that Disney has done now. So the now version that you see on like Disney Plus is the 4K version. I believe it's the anniversary edition that is the actual running digital version, which is it's you either like it or you don't, because one, those are probably the raw cells, because that's as big as it's gonna get. They whatever cell they have in wherever they're upscaling these, that is as big as it's gonna get. So the it, 4K kind of ruins it because it's not designed for that. Like these movies were never designed for that. So you probably watch it, and at this point, because it's been digitally remastered and then like kept remastered and remastered and remastered, but they keep remastering the remaster, it screws it up, and you start losing details and pencil sketches. You'll notice it in Cinderella if you've seen original Cinderella, like VHS or even DVD. There are sketch marks that are in those versions of the movie. When you watch the 4K version of Cinderella, it's a little, you don't see those sketch marks anymore, and you actually lose detail, which I was noticing with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This is not I can't docket points for this now because this is just because of time, and that's just how it's going to be for now on. But if you look at Snow White's little patch that she has on her shoulder, it's super pixelated and it looks like shit. And that's just kind of the thing of like, you can't get away from it now. It's just, that's what it looks like now. It's so far gone. But they also could have, like, Disney probably does have the original cut of Snow White in a vault somewhere. But the thing is, it's so brittle and probably so flammable because they were probably still using, I can't remember the term that what kind of reel that is, but yeah, old school film reels were super flammable, so it's probably locked away and probably will never be open because of preservation purposes. So yeah, it's just it's kind of crazy. We talked about this last stream. I actually showed the people that were here the machine that Disney uses to film this type of animation, and I was wondering if you guys noticed the panes of glass that they used, because the Disney company created this camera, and it's like this big, or not this big, but it looks like this. It's like it's a rectangle, and they have panes of glass that they can move in and out. And then they bring this actual camera that sits on top, and then they actually will bring it down and move the panes of glass in order to make it seem like an actual real movie, where you'll have like a dolly up, or where you're trying to follow a character, and instead of having to keep redrawing the backgrounds or redrawing the foregrounds, you actually don't need to do that anymore. You can just move the panes of glass. And it's pretty interesting. Just look it up, Walt Disney animation camera. It has a name. Like, let me just, I might as well just look it up here. Walt Disney camera. It is, let's see here. It is called the multiplane camera. And you can actually see one of these if you're in the San Francisco area. You can actually see a multiplane camera in the Walt Disney Museum that's in San Francisco. And then I think you can see one at Hollywood Studios in Walt Disney World. And I think there may be... No. I'm trying to think if there's one in Art of Animation at California Adventure, because that's the only place I would think for it to be there. But now I can't remember if it's just easel drawings. I think it's just easel drawings. I don't think it's actually there. So the only two I really know of is the one that's in the Walt Disney Museum. And it might be in the Disney Museum that's in Missouri. And there might be one there too. But for sure the one in San Francisco, because I've seen it and I've taken a photo of it. So, yeah, it's cool that they did that. And I don't know, I kind of noticed it in the movie. So, okay. So, I think we've talked enough about what we've thought about, or what I've thought about the movie. The praises, the negative stuff, though. I will have to say there is moments in the movie that I was kind of like, okay, let's speed this up. Like, like that's why I was kind of meaning when it was like it's a little slower paced, which is fine, but also let's pick this up. Like let's get this going and move forward with the movie. I understand why they did it, and it actually was. I could see why Walt Disney decided we needed to spend more time with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, because at the end of the day, that's the name of the movie. You walked in wanting to watch Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, so you were going to watch Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Those characters are going to interact each other for most of the movie, and they did. And I actually think that it was only taking place over one night, because they only have the one shot, the one situation where Snow goes upstairs to go sleep, and it's after they've all done eating, and they all decide to sleep downstairs. So it's only over one day, which is kind of interesting. But then at the very end, when Snow has been poisoned, and they think that she's dead, that takes place over seasons. As you can, like, when the text pops up, it's like springtime, then it's wintertime. How did that work? It would have probably been fall, and then it went into winter, and then it went into spring. So there's seasons that it like almost a year has gone by when Snow White gets woken up, which I totally didn't think about either. It's not like the prince doesn't just show up and kiss Snow White and then the movie's over, and that doesn't happen within a couple days. No one knows where Snow White went. They have no idea where she went. So, like, when you read the text, which reading in movies is kind of dumb, but I understand for the time being, and for time's sake, they needed to move that along. They can't show you all of that stuff of the prince finding out, oh, Snow's out in the woods somewhere, and then he goes off, which is what it says, and then goes and does the thing. So, yeah, that was kind of done in a way that I think was probably just for time's sake, and then we get it. But, I mean, yeah, 80% of that movie is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs over just that one day of that they spend together. So, it's kind of interesting when you think about it. Yeah, so, I don't know. That's kind of that. Moving into the IMDb corner, let's take a look at some trivia and cool stuff that I'm looking at the top cast, and apparently a lot of them were uncredited, which is interesting. So, let's take a look at taglines. Holy cow, there are a lot of them. So let's go, because I think we've had a pretty good dry spell of taglines. So we'll read a few of these. The thing about taglines is here's what those mean. That means when you walk into the movie theater and you look at a poster, there's usually a bit of text that is to sell you on the movie exactly what this is, within just one sentence or maybe a couple sentences. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to read the taglines for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. First one here is Walt Disney's new character in... What? Oh, okay. I see why the sentence is written this way. So this is how it's written. Walt Disney's new characters in his first full-length production. Walt Disney's first full-length production, which is true. This is his first full-length production. And to be a full-length production is to be an hour in about an hour and a half, a little over an hour. Actually, I think it's only an hour is when you're considered a movie. So, a full-length feature. Next one is the happiest, dopiest, grumpiest, sneeziest movie of the year. That's pretty fun. See for yourself what the genius of Walt Disney has created in his first full-length feature production. Okay, that's a re-release one. This is a print ad. Oh, there you go. Yeah, because they had to print. That's the thing. When you went to the movie theater, if you wanted to know showtimes, you checked the paper to see when those showtimes were. And sometimes there would be ads for up-and-coming movies. So big, it tops them all. That's a terrible one. That was a print ad. Let's see. Walt Disney's first full-length feature production, which was also a print ad. And that's the thing is like these are like specifically like this one's in Texas. Or actually a few of these are in Texas from like the same agency. Another one was in New York. Another one was in Washington. Chehalis, Washington. Wow. Okay. Meet Walt Disney's new characters in his first. So they just kind of ran the same thing. The best loved film ever. Another one is Still the Fairest of Them All. That was probably a re-release. The best loved musical of all time. The show sensation of the generation. Walt Disney's first full-length feature presentation. Behold, the miracle of the movies coming to amaze you, charm you, thrill you. And the last one is the one that started it all. I think a lot of these were like re-releases. So I'm assuming because it's been repeated several times is the fact that this is Walt Disney's first production. Which I don't know if a lot of people have actually seen a Walt Disney directed movie. Because that is what this... I think he's credited as director. No, he's not. Okay, no. It's just it's just production. Interesting. So I wonder what credit he got. But yeah, it would just be this is Walt Disney's first production feature full-length film. Okay. There's some goofs. All right, well, let's look at trivia. Okay. At a recording session, Lucille Laverne, the voice of the Wicked Queen, was told by Walt Disney's animators that they needed an older, raspier version of the Queen's voice for the old witch. Laverne stepped out of the recording booth, returned a few minutes later, and gave a perfect old hag's voice that stunned the animators. When asked how she did it, she replied, "Oh, I just took my teeth out." Well, there you go. There you go. Okay. And she's credited as both? Yeah, the Evil Queen and the Witch. Okay. Interesting. She was pretty she was in her years at the time. She passed away in 1945 and this came out in 37. So, and she died at 72. So, she was in her 60s. Okay. Walt Disney wanted to keep Snow White's voice as a special one-time sound and held Adrenia Castal. Oh my gosh, very transatlantic name. The gal who played Snow White, which again she's marked as uncredited. She's marked as uncredited in a lot of things. She did a whole bunch of stuff. Okay. To a very strict contract. Okay, so So this is the fact. Walt Disney wanted to keep Snow White's voice as a special one-time sound, and held the actress to Adrenia, whatever last name is, to a very strict contract, except for a tiny bit part in the Wizard of Oz in 1939's Wizard of Oz. She never had a real singing part in a movie again, though she was a classically trained singer. Yeah, I was actually seeing in her little bio that she is also a opera singer, or she has a very opera background. But nobody saw the movie in 1937. I bet you nobody that saw the movie in 1937 theaters is alive, to my knowledge. They would be like 100, right? That could recollect that. Let's see here. Let's see, 2025 minus 1937. So that's 88 years ago. And then that's just when the movie came out. It's 88 years ago. So I guess the only way that you could do that is you add another 10 years. So you would had to have been born in 1927, or 1927 to, because that you're 98 at that point. You could be 90 and still have seen it, but you'd be probably like 90. I'd say probably 10, or between 7 and 10 is probably when you're going to remember that. But before that, yeah, you could be probably not. Yeah, it's probably very few people that would know that. Oops. Okay. Some animators were opposed to the name Dopey, claiming that it was too modern a word to use in a timeless fairy tale. Walt Disney made the argument that William Shakespeare used the word in one of his plays. This managed to convince everyone, although any reference to the term dopey is yet to be found in any Shakespeare's work, although Shakespeare does use the term foolish in Twelfth Night, as well as Zed for Z, meaning dumbest of the dumb. This could have been alternative names for dopey, since they were found in Shakespeare. Halfwit, dunce, and jester were all similar terms that were commonly used at the time. They could have been Dopey's name also. The original names for the dwarves before Disney renamed them were Snick, Glick, Blick, Flick, Plick, Wick, and Q. Okay. So essentially Disney, a very Disney move. This is a very Walt Disney thing to do. Just tell them what they want to hear, and then they'll probably agree to it because you're Walt freaking Disney. So what are they going to do? Look it up? Where? Like, they're not going to take the time out of their day to go look up and see if William Shakespeare ever used it. They're going to be like, oh, okay, well, if that's what it said. So, like, yeah, for his craft, yeah. Walt Disney Studios in Burbank, California, was built with the profits of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So there you go. There would be no Walt Disney Studios, if it wasn't for the success of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Which goes on to why Rachel Zellweger, is that what her name is? The one that played Snow White in the new one, where when she shits all over it, go watch those interviews. She shits on this movie all over the place. So when she does that, just know that this movie was so important for the company that gave her a job, and for the fact that people at Walt Disney Studio, like at the Disney Studios, were allowing her to just spew this terrible bullshit. Just know that if it wasn't for this movie and the success that it had, there would be no Walt Disney Studios. Eventually, maybe, you could argue, but because of this movie, they were able to go to Burbank and they were able to get studios. So there you go. The Special Academy Award given to the picture consisted of one standard Oscar statue and 7 miniature statues on a stepped base. That is true. They gave Walt Disney a he has an Academy Award, but it was a special one. It wasn't an official animated Academy Award. He got an Academy Award, and then he got 7 little ones, which was kind of funny. So, the highest grossing animated film of all time adjusted for inflation. That's crazy when you really think about it. But it's also been out since 1937. So, take that with a grain of salt. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was the first full-length cel-animated feature in motion picture history. Based on a German fairy tale by the Brothers Grimm, it was the first animated feature film produced in America, the first produced in full color, and the first to be produced by Walt Disney Productions. All the dwarves were modeled after real people. One of the first films to have related merchandise available at the time of the premiere. And we'll do one more. The film's initial budget was $250,000. The film's initial budget of $250,000 was 10 times the average budget of one of the studio's Silly Symphony shorts. As it transpired, the final budget was in excess of $1.4 million, a huge amount of for any film at the time. So they were budgeting Snow White to be $250,000. It turned out it was $1.4 million. That's quite a we are way over budget type of thing. But they risked it. That's the thing. They ran the risk because Disney was like, this is gonna work, and everyone listened. And sure enough, the rest is history. So it was a good. They did spend $1.4 million, but they also got their money back. So, yeah. Crazy credits. That is what is interesting. None of the actors in this film were credited. Not a single one. If you go to IMDb, none of them are marked as credited. The dwarves are not marked. The prince is not marked. Snow White's not even marked. The queen isn't even marked. They just know who those people were, and then they added them later. So the movie does not credit them, but IMDb does know the research of who those people are. That's why in IMDb it will say their name and then it'll say uncredited. So in the movie, they're not in the movie as playing those roles. It's really weird. I did not know that, but especially they have opening credits, so it's kind of weird. My sincere appreciation to the members of my staff whose loyalty and creative endeavor made possible this production. Signed, Walt Disney. Unusual for a film of this era, the words "The End" never appear on screen. Oh, well, there you go. Especially with it being a storybook. Kind of weird, because it opens with a storybook, so that's kind of interesting. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, non-English versions show the names of the Seven Dwarves' beds and the Evil Queen's spell books written in the language of the country is released, i.e. German has it in Germany, Italian in Italy, French in France, etc. So if you watch an alternate version of the film in that, like an Italian version of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, all of the text and stuff will be in Italian. So that's kind of interesting. Okay. Release date was February 4th, 1938 in the United States. Origin, the United States. And let's see. The budget was $1,499,000, so 1.4, almost $1.5 million estimated. It grossed in the U.S. and Canada $184.9 million. Opening weekend, it grossed wow, that's crazy. It grossed $6 million in its opening weekend in the US and Canada. So just think about that. Original budget was $250,000, which is a pretty good chunk of change in 1937. They over they went way over their budget with 1.5 almost 1.5 million dollars, and in just one weekend they got $6 million in one weekend. That is so crazy. Worldwide, they grossed $185.1 million. Now, that could the $184 million and whatever, those could also be adjusted for the re-releases that did get Snow White coming out in its anniversary edition and things like that. So those could be adjusted, but the opening weekend is insane to even look at. And it even says July 17th, 1983. Wait, 83? Wait a minute. That's not right. So as of July 17th, 83. That's weird. I don't know why that's there. So it grossed in an opening weekend $6.1 million. That's confusing. Either way, they made their money back. So that's now that I'm seeing the July 17th thing there. I'm a little confused on that, just based on how IMDb has this set up. But still, it's impressive, I will say. Let's see, what else do we got here? Okay, well, I think that's pretty much it in the sense of how this all is. Did the directors ever do anything else? There's 3 directors. 3 credited directors on this. That's a lot. It's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, you know what I mean? Okay. Well, now comes the time of giving this a review. Giving it an official Primal Target review. For those that are here that want to give Snow White an official PT review, go ahead. It will be based on the average of how many we get for that. So, after this is all said and done, we're now... Snow White's... Let's close the book on Snow White here. I do think that there is so many things that this movie does really, really well. For the time that it came out, the such a cultural icon of a film, it changed history based on it just being created. If there is no Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, if there is no risks that were taken to even creating this movie, there would be no household name of Walt Disney. There would be no Burbank studio. There would be no theme park in Anaheim. There would be no theme park in Orlando. The Disney name, though it may have thrived a little bit, it put in animation as a real thing, as people taking it seriously and going, oh, you can actually watch a fully animated movie for an hour and 20 minutes like that. They can do that. Like you can now look at animation as an art form and a source of entertainment that isn't going to be just 5 to 10 to 20 minutes long. You now have something that is a full-length feature film that has this huge domino effect. But looking at the movie itself, because that's what we have to look at too, and that's what really gives it an actual review, is, to me, I think, I don't know, I look at it as the pacing is a bit long, but I understand why he wanted to go long, because he wanted to have the relationship between, why are the 7 dwarves going to run the risk of chasing down the evil queen? Well, they spend this time with her. They know who she is, because they even establish that. As soon as she mentions that she's a princess, or no, she says she's Snow White. My name is Snow White. The dwarves know who she is now, because they know that she's the princess of the entire kingdom that they live in. they all know that, and that just kind of establishes that Snow White is even a bigger name than we even thought she was. She's not just some maid; she's actually a princess. So even though she doesn't get treated like it, so yeah, I just kind of see that the storytelling is done really well. I just don't think I would say it's really that great. Can you pass on it? I could see someone going like it not being for everybody, but I would probably give it a solid. And I know you guys gave it a pretty good. Oh yeah, let me throw this in the let me throw this in the chat first. So this is Primal Target's official review scale. This is what I review all the movies on. 10 is groundbreaking. If it's in the 9s, it's a must-have. If it's in the 8s, it's a marvelous. 7s, it's worthy. 6s are borrow. 5 is meh. 4 is mediocre. 3 is terrible. 2 is horrific. 1 is trash. And 0 are unplayable. The thing with this movie is, do I think it's a groundbreaking movie? In its entirety of what the film is, and what it is, and how it's all been created, obviously you could easily slap this as a 10. I don't think as a movie it's that groundbreaking. The way that it's done is pretty groundbreaking, but I wouldn't give it a 10 because the story is a little is it a must have? I don't think a lot of people need to grab it. I think it has its audience, which brings it down into the 8s, which marvelous means those you probably are going to buy it. About 80% of people are going to own this movie. 7s are worthy of owning. So about 70%, maybe a little bit higher would own the movie, but if you just rented it too, that could be a passable thing. A 6 is just rent it. Just rent it, watch it, and then once you watch it, you're kind of done. You don't ever need to come back to it. Snow White, to me, always hung around the 6s. I think as of watching this as an adult, I would have to say it's a solid 7. Because, again, I think the movie does have some struggling pacing because it's a 30s movie. And I'm not really... Sometimes, if it's a 30s movie and... things need to start happening. Like sometimes those old shows and old movies it was a different time. So I don't need all of that. There's some things that you could kind of take out. So I'm going to give it a solid 7, which is pretty high considering where I was going into this. I would have probably gave this a 5 going into it because I always hated Snow White. I just didn't really... I thought it was boring, and I never appreciated for what it actually was. Now watching it, knowing how the writing was, knowing how the movie was made, it does bring it up a little bit, and then also seeing it and going, oh, that question's answered. Why is she here? Oh, well, that question's answered. Well, why do they like her so much? Well, that question's answered. Why are they, this... Well, that question's answered. So it's really smart writing. And it's done really well. So I'm going to give it a solid 7. You guys gave it an 8.5 and an 8, which I'm assuming I'm going to have to round that up to an 8.3, but plus 8 divided by 2. Yeah, okay, so 8.3 is the official PT Nation score. So PT Nation... Yeah, I'll just write 8.3 out of 10 PT Nation and PT. Okay, so there you go. So a 7 out of 10 as the official Primal Target score and an 8.3 out of 10 as the official PT Nation score. So there you go. And that's the thing. That's the beauty about these reviews. It's my opinion. If you like this movie, by all means, enjoy it for as much as you want it to do. It's a great tale. I think it's still a very enjoyable movie that you can watch with anybody. Preacher, you said you watched this with your very new daughter, and I'm sure this will not be the last time that you watch it with your daughter. Snow White is an iconic princess. She is the first, and she has that crown forever. And it's and some people really like Snow White. They think that she's a lot of people consider Snow White as their favorite princess. She's not my favorite princess. We haven't gotten to that one yet. We'll see if my actual opinion changes too over time based off of watching these all boom. So, yeah, that's gonna be it for episode 1 of MovieKombat Season 8, Disney Princesses. Snow White is officially done, and next episode we will be watching Cinderella. So go watch Cinderella, come back, and then we will do this live on twitch.tv/prime_target. Make sure you're following us over there. And then if you want to watch this whenever you want to, head over to YouTube, hit subscribe, and just type in Primal Target. We're there. Subscribe to us, and you guys can be a part of the action over there and relive all of the memories of what you gave the score to. So that will be it for me this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode when we talk about Cinderella. All right. Good night, everybody.